A soul which temporarily dwells on the earthly plane is subject to the conditions prevailing here. Down here, there is no peace and no security, but nothing but endless struggle for life, health, food, clothing, housing, income, and property. All that which is material is constantly in danger. Through endless work, you have to earn every day your own and the survival of the people entrusted to you. Nevertheless, the immortal is not concerned for his survival. As a being from the world of the soul, he is not affected by material necessities. The immortal looks at the world and at himself within it with the eyes of the eternal individuality, from the point of view of a wanderer on an infinite path who briefly visits this planet and will soon move on to other worlds. Your soul descends to the material plane in order to fulfill a task, to learn, to practice its abilities, to prove its progress, to grow and to perfect itself. The fate of your tool, the body, during this short stay, whether it lives in poverty or in wealth, in health or in illness, in happiness or in misfortune, is of no importance whatsoever for the mission of your higher self. It is essential that the art of thinking again rise above the external conditions, which are subordinate factors of existence. When you incarnate on the material plane, you are inevitably exposed to the suffering that reigns down here. It hurts to get in contact with the gross emanations of the brutal conditions of the omnipresent imperfection. You are destined to endure all the injustices and all the attacks which the hostile to the spirit inhabitants of these spheres use to inflict to each other. Not unlike Jesus, every other earthly dweller is mocked, humiliated, beaten, wrongfully accused, innocently condemned, and often crucified. Like Cinderella, you are humbled, although you are destined to a kingdom. The immortal is by no means spared the cross of existence. His uniqueness lies in the fact that it cannot harm him. He is like the lotus which lives in the water but is not wetted. The suffering of the world drips off from you because you know your true, inviolable, invisible, inner spiritual being is not affected by the external distress which concerns the body only. Where lies the salvation from the earthly sorrows? take the point of view of eternity. Earthly cares are like stones rolling down a mountain. The lower down they roll, the more violent the impact of the landslide. Would it not be better to ascend to the very summit, where there are no falling stones? Upward striving also transforms our attitude toward earthly cares. Even though they continue, their meaning is altered. From there, the everyday attacks, difficulties and imperfections, the suffering and the distress of the world do not disappear, but they lose their weight. They become small and void. They concern your perishable personality only, while your higher self is standing far above them. Our philosophy is based upon thinking about infinity. With such ideals, earthly tribulations become bearable and manageable. Let us follow the example of the great saints and spiritual warriors. Let us not believe that they were better off than we are. By no means. All without exception, they have done their work in the midst of earthly life and carried their full share of the suffering of mankind. Just one example. Try to imagine as vividly as possible the professional life of Christ as a carpenter, or of St. Paul as a tent maker. They participated in the worldly struggle for existence and were exposed to the same difficulties, injustice, and cruelties as any one of today's professional workers. Were these two high initiates self-employed, then they did not fare differently than any craftsman at all times. The suppliers claim to be paid immediately, but the customers you have to chase for the money that is due to you. Or were they employees? Then they had to subordinate themselves to superiors who stood spiritually below them and were exposed to their violence and whims. Nevertheless, the saints did not allow themselves to be subdued by any humiliation. They brought to bear the dignity that lies in their higher self, even on the cross. In addition to invulnerability, the second great achievement of the coming immortal man is selflessness. Do you think, I want this or that for me? This is an expression of your perishable personality. Your eternal individuality does not require anything for itself. It is completely selfless. Anima does not need material objects, neither for her survival nor for her well-being. When you have become a soul, you will despise material goods. You will have to abandon them anyway once you leave this world. They do not help you on your infinite path. On the contrary, the concern for their preservation and defense even impedes your spiritual progress. Souls live simply, modestly, and undemanding, an attitude which reflects the dignity of man better than the present wastefulness. They do not participate in the mad chasing for possessions, power, and satisfaction of the desires of the body. A soul evades material pleasures. They cannot satisfy a spiritual being and weaken its strength. You old men pay dearly for your apparent wealth, namely with damage to your higher self. The soul loses with everything that the body gains. Look at the present time. Materially, as rich as none. Spiritually, as poor as hardly anyone. The personal desires must die so that the spiritual self may be born. The mortals around us cut each other to pieces in order to grab as much as possible of that what nature has provided for all men and what we all of us have produced in common. We immortals are competing to get along with as little as possible. A spiritual being is merely striving to procure for its earthly tool, the body, that small amount of food, clothing and housing which is indispensable for its material survival. Without that this concern were of particular importance, a soul would never fight with other souls for such resources. For a creature that cannot die at all, the much talked of struggle for existence is a concept deprived of any sense. A soul would never harm another soul because of some insignificant physical needs. Thereby, it would harm itself. To the old, mortal, physical man, the law of the jungle applies. The strong robs or eats up the weak and becomes even stronger thereby. To the new, immortal man there applies the law of the sacrifice. In the exceptional case that there should really be no sufficient means to survive for all, that is, for all bodies, we immortals renounce willingly in favor of the others. A long earthly life is no value as such. In view of infinity, it is of no importance at all whether one single life of the body lasts somewhat shorter or longer. What are 10, 50, or even 100 years for a creature that lives eternally? Not more than the twinkling of an eye. The death of the body is a light thing compared to the death of a soul. A soul loses nothing, but in fact grows when it sacrifices the body, which will soon pass away anyway. For your eternal individuality, it is better to live a short life right than a long life wrong. When people begged Milarepa to have pity on himself and stop leading such a hard life, he said, "As all of us are subject to death, I prefer to die in pursuit of a beautiful goal." Verily, if even 100 people could realize the wisdom of this formula and would apply it in life, the world could be transformed in the shortest time. Your higher self actually thirsts for serving a great purpose. The law of the sacrifice states, "Your eternal individuality grows greater when it gives, not when it takes." Therefore, all spiritual teachings agree. True happiness does not lie in possessing, but in giving. Thus, Jesus says, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Sacrifice is power. Power is possibility. Consequently, every sacrifice is first of all a possibility. It is time to cast aside the hypocrisy that sacrifice is deprivation. We do not accept deprivations, but we give possibilities. In our treasury there is a large collection of sacrifices, and each one was useful to the one who made it. We dislike to speak about sacrifices because a sacrifice is a most profitable undertaking. A real merchant of life considers each expenditure as only a business guarantee. As long as you are mortal, you cannot act completely selflessly. You must consider your entire existence as endangered when you neglect the needs of the body. As long as you believe your end to be imminent, you can hardly do anything else than to cling with all your strength to this poor rest of life, to defend it with teeth and claws, to expand it as long as possible, and to enjoy it to the full. As an immortal, you have nothing to lose, because you are bound to nothing. You have nothing to gain, because there is nothing that tempts you. It is only when you have become aware of the indestructibility and eternity of your true self that you will be able to achieve complete, unqualified selflessness. Only then you are in a position to sacrifice everything, if need be, even the life of your body. We shall see in a later broadcasting the quality of selflessness is crucial for the construction of the new world. The scourges of our time, which make life on this wonderful planet a hell for us, are selfishness, greed, the chase for money, power and pleasure, the struggle of everyone against everyone. If you think deeper, you will find out that the cause for almost all evils is the egotism of man. Poverty was not created by God. We have produced it, me and you, with our egotism. In order to really change the world, we have to overcome the omnipresent egotism. The society of the future can be built by people only who have achieved complete selflessness. We new men are eager to put into the common pot more than we take out of it for ourselves. We are ready to share with our fellow human beings both the necessary work and the income resulting therefrom. This is how we eliminate both poverty and unemployment. Only if you acknowledge the continuity of your existence beyond the life of the body, you will be able to find a satisfactory meaning for your life. The existentialist philosophers are, in fact, right. If we really had only one single short earthly life, our existence would indeed be absurd. If all the achievements you gain, if all the qualities you assemble, expansion of consciousness, abandoning bad and acquiring good qualities, building up new abilities, if the progress you struggle to achieve, if all this is to be completely annihilated in a few years' time, why then should you trouble to unfold any striving at all? It is useless to speak of purification or sublimation before the continuity of life is understood. A meaningful life does not begin until you know your soul accumulates all these treasures and takes them along on its infinite eternal path. Not one of them is lost. You can continue to build upon that what you have appropriated earlier. Then you can set a goal for yourself. Then you can follow the advice of Jesus. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. This means accumulate achievements, abilities, and spiritual power, which will remain in your possession even after the death of the body, and which you can continue to develop infinitely.